Hey everyone, welcome to Conversations with Curtis. My name is Paul Morgan Stetler, and I am the host of this program. And I want to welcome you. I'm coming at you from a hotel room in Southern California, where I'm doing a work tour. And so I don't have my setup. I have a laptop with a bad camera and no microphone, kind of harkening back to you know the old days of 2021. But I wanted to introduce my interview with Noah Antwiler, the TheSpoonyOne himself. I'm very excited to share this interview with you. But before I do, I want to just give you a little context about this whole thing. So, as you probably know, Noah Antwiler is almost single-handedly responsible for introducing Phantasmagoria to thousands and thousands of people. His Let's Play of that game in 2008 was legendary. It was a Mystery Science Theater 3000 kind of a send up. He was unbelievably funny. Almost every single moment is filled with great jokes and humor and really completely on point observations. And really, it's because of him, I think, that so many of you know about Phantasmagoria too, and as a result, now know about Conversations with Curtis. So the moment I started Conversation with Curtis, people immediately said, you need to talk to Spoon. So I looked into it and I found that Spoonie is a very polarizing figure. He had some emotional troubles that he had to deal with. And he kind of took himself offline for the last couple of years, trying to take care of himself and get him back to a place of mental health. And I reached out to him a little bit during that time, and he never responded. And I realized that wasn't where he's at right now. But then time went by, and I'm continuing to do this. And I reached out a couple more times, and then one day I got an email or a DM from him apologizing for not responding, letting me know that it's been a really tough year or two, but that he'd like to maybe talk at some point. So I respond and say, that sounds great. More time goes by, and I think I reach out one or two more times. And then he responded and said, yeah, let's talk. So we scheduled a time, and that time was this past Sunday. So here's what I want to tell you about this interview. There's a couple things. One, I felt a certain nervousness about talking to him, not knowing what he would be like or if he was going to be open to a real conversation. And two, being able to deliver something to our fans and to his fans that would be something of worth. And I'll be honest, I don't know if we quite got there. And it's mostly my fault. I feel like I was not prepared for this interview the way I normally am. I didn't have the time to put as much thought and prep work into this as I normally do. But we started to talk, and it was great. He was open and humble and kind, and clearly someone who has come out of something profound. And we didn't get into it. He asked in advance not to talk in depth about his struggles. But I really liked how open he was, and we had a great talk. And what I had planned to do was cut together a number of clips from his Let's Play of Phantaz 2. And in fact, I reached out to a bunch of our Patreon members and Discord members asking for some of their favorite moments. And the idea was to cut all those together. And then after Spoonie and I talked for a while, to share those clips with him and have him comment on those. I didn't get a chance to finish all those clips before the interview, but I had about 25 minutes worth. And then I had this great idea, or at least I thought it was a great idea, about a couple hours before the interview, where I thought, hey, what? Maybe it would be fun for Spoonie and I, if he's up for it, to do a full Let's Play of his Let's Play and take our time and do it in like 5 parts, 5 1-hour parts, like his Let's Play is, and just spend time watching him play Phantasmagoria and talk about the game that I happen to be in. And it seemed like a really fun meta exercise. And I reached out to him just about an hour before the interview and asked if he'd be interested. And he came back and said, yeah, let's go for it. So after about 35, 40 minutes of us chatting, we booted up his Let's Play and started to watch it. And it was really fun. And there were a lot of good things in there, but it became super clear to me early on that this wasn't the right way to go. That spending, potentially 5 hours watching someone else's Let's Play, especially someone who had so much great commentary, that if we're commenting over his commentary, then we're losing the commentary. So it became clear that that this wasn't right. And so I stopped the recording at that point. He and I talked about like how, yeah, that doesn't quite feel right. And we strategized about what we could do next. And at that point, I thought I would just sort of scrap the interview and we would do it again. But I think there's a lot in here that you guys are going to like. And so what I want to do is release my interview with Spoonie right now for you to watch. I'm going to cut out the Let's Play stuff. And then what happened was I wasn't going to record anymore, but he and I started to talk about some, we started to get into some really interesting stuff. And I realized there was something genuine happening, and I asked if we could record again. And he said yes. And so then we talked a little bit about where he's at right now and what he wants to do with his, with his life and his career. And I really thought there was some real interesting moments in there. So what you're going to see is my very first interview with Noah Antwiler. I'm going to cut the Let's Play, and then I'm going to show you the tail end of that interview. And then what you're going to learn is that he has agreed to come on Conversations with Curtis for a live stream event where we will continue our conversation. He will take a live Q&A from the chat, and then we will watch about 40 minutes of well-curated moments from his Let's Play of Phantasmagoria 2, and I will have him comment on those moments. So that's going to be happening in the near future. We don't have those dates lined up yet, but we're going to make that happen. But in the meantime, please enjoy my interview, my first interview with Noah Antwiler, the TheSpoonyOne himself.
Noah Antwiler.
Mr. Stetler.
We meet at last.
That's right. That's right. Hey, honestly, I'm just glad you're not suing me, or at least not yet.
Let's see how today goes. Exactly. I like Bard to the Bone. Are you a fan of? Is this a Shakespeare thing?
No. It's a reference to the Spoonie Bard thing.
You're gonna have to catch me up on a lot of things that I don't know.
The Spoonie thing is a reference to a video game called Final Fantasy.
Okay.
And it's a reference to what's kind of considered to be a poorly translated line, where one character calls another a Spoonie Bard.
A Spoonie Bard.
And so what's actually interesting is it's actually a very good translation, but nobody knows what Spoonie means. So I kind of took that and I rolled with it because I wanted to, I was naming a Dungeons and Dragons character, and I wanted to call him something that nobody knew the meaning to the word. So like Sir Lancelot the Brave.
Right.
Pure. I wanted to be Sir Tandem the something like some ostentatious word that nobody knew what it meant. So I was like, the Spoonie. What does that mean? So, and I always said, oh, well, it's Elvish, don't worry about it. And
I love it. Did you ever dig into what it could have meant in those under those circumstances?
It does. What it means is foolishly sentimental or romantic. So actually, in context, it's a brilliant translation because that's actually literally what he's calling him, but in just one word.
Oh, that's great.
So I actually want to find the person who localized the game from Japan, because that translation is amazing.
Yeah. So it became the TheSpoonyOne. Did it get to the TheSpoonyOne? Did it morph along the way?
The TheSpoonyOne was just kind of a name, kind of a pen name I did, because the very first thing I started doing was I started writing for a comic book. I did a movie review column for a comic book. and I just decided to call myself Spoonie. I just because everyone was like, you have to have an internet handle.
Right.
So I just thought that was a fun name, and it's something people remember. So
Yeah. Well, hey, man, I just want to thank you for taking the time to do this. People have been ever since I started this, whatever this thing is I'm
yes,
doing. It goes way back. So back in 2008, my Facebook messages started to blow up. I started getting all of these. Are you Curtis? Spoonie says hi, or whatever this was, and I had no idea what was going on.
I didn't send them, I swear.
No, I don't. I didn't get the sense you did, and I didn't really engage because at that point I didn't know what you were doing, and then I finally heard and realized that you were doing a Mystery Science Theater kind of send up of Phantasm, which it absolutely deserved. We were doing that ourselves on set when we were filming it, so it made total sense. And then I watched a little of it, and I thought of this was. I mean, I just maybe watched 5-10 minutes of it way back then, and I thought it's really funny, but at the same time, not sure I can sit and watch 4 hours of me being made fun of. So I just kind of let it go, and then it just over the years I would hear about it, and then when I this year when I created this little channel. By the way, we're in the. I thought you'd have get a kick. I'm in the therapist's office. This is the background of the therapist's office.
Oh,
So.
I get it. I get it.
So this is my place to ask you some questions now.
Okay.
So anyways, it was just a long, your name and our name somehow got entwined because of this incredible thing that you pulled off. And so it is a truly, truly beloved Let's Play that people talk to with incredible fondness. And as I've watched it, I totally see it. So I'm just dying to talk to you about that. I haven't watched any of your others, and I hear that Phantas 2 isn't even one of your best. But what you do and what's that?
I think it is. I actually haven't done any other Let's Plays quite as involved, because none of them are quite as cinematic as
Right.
Phantasmagoria 2 is.
Did you well, let's back up. I want to get to know you just a little bit. So where are you from?
I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, but I have virtually no memory of that.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Mesa, Arizona.
Mesa, Arizona.
Yeah.
All through high school and all that?
Yeah.
And are you still in Arizona?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's been your hometown ever since. And I know that. Tell me a little bit, if you can, just give me a brief sense of family and mom, dad, brothers, sisters, all that stuff.
Oh, they're doing fine. My brother's a civil engineer, my older brother, and my younger brother is a sheriff's deputy.
Oh, wow.
My sister works for the state. She's I'm actually not sure what her job is now, but she was a civil engineer for a while. But yeah, she's I think she works also in southern Arizona as well.
What's the age difference between the four of you?
Oh, geez, my younger brother's 2 years younger than me, and he's the youngest. And the others are about 10 to 12 years older.
Oh, wow. Big gap. Okay.
Yeah.
Same mom and dad, or was there a switch? And okay, they just took a break, I guess.
They took a break, and they somehow I was the one who kind of broke the streak, I guess.
Yeah. And what do your parents do? Or what did they do?
Oh, they're retired. My dad worked for McDonnell Douglas and then later for Boeing.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so what was your first introduction to computers, computer games? How did you what got you hooked?
My dad was he this was before anyone really had computers, when computers had one color on the monitor, and so we were among the first to have a personal computer, one with a text prompt and everything. And it was we were playing games like monochrome games like Ultima. And my older brother and I was too young to really understand what was going on, but I was just sitting there watching him just in fascination as he would play with these video games. This is before Nintendo.
So you're like what, 5 and he's 15 kind of thing?
Yeah. Roundabout. And so I was just always fascinated with what computers could do. And I started, I as soon as I could, I took programming classes. And that was when I was introduced to the Oregon Trail,
Yep.
and I would finish my work really quickly because in that class anyway I was really good. So and then we would be playing on the Apple II computers Oregon Trail in monochrome, very silly the entire class all day every day. And so that was really the first multiplayer game I ever really started playing. And so you get to know people a certain way, the way they play Oregon Trail as well. My friend Bill always wanted to just shoot buffalo. He had this. He would always just cackle as he would just massacre buffalo left and right because you only need to kill one, right?
Right.
You can only drag that much meat back. But he was just like, look how many I can get, Noah. He got really good at that game.
That's great.
Oh, really terrible at that.
Now,
game.
this was not you're not talking about the text version of it. This was a more
no, Oregon Trail was well,
it started off as a text adventure, right? Where you would it would say,
no, but it was a lot of text menus.
Okay.
Like the only part of the game that was really animated was the shooting aspect of it.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, you were just kind of watching a little wagon just cross, and it would say all of a sudden like you've died of dysentery.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. I remember that now. Yeah. That's great. And then what that was the beginning. What did it lead to? What was the next? When did the game start to pile up?
I think what let me see. What the second thing that really kind of inspired me was I joined drama club.
Oh, great. Yeah, tell me about that.
High school, and so that was when I started. I didn't have a lot of friends, and so and I was actually a very quiet kid because I was nerdy and I didn't know how to deal with people. I was your kind of typical computer nerd, and so that one actually hanging out with people I wouldn't have normally hung out with, I think, and doing things that were out of my comfort zone and just having fun.
Yeah.
And I think drama club was just fantastic for me.
It's an amazing experience. I think everybody, I think it should almost be required just because.
And I was in marching band, and that's the thing is a lot of the extracurricular programs nowadays, schools are underfunded and they're cutting all those programs.
All these programs that make such a huge difference, and when adults think, well, why would we fund something that they're not going to do later on in life? It's so short-sighted.
It made high school and junior high bearable.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, it was my only outlet for friends. Like I wouldn't have had friends otherwise.
Yeah.
So it's such an incredible thing, and I actually started looking back into. I wanted to volunteer for the high school band, like to teach the high school band, and they cut it.
This is recently.
Yeah, they cut the high school marching band.
Oh man,
I couldn't even volunteer if I wanted.
Oh, that's a bummer. Luckily, where I'm at, they're still being taught music in schools, and
great.
But yeah, okay. And you play? When did you start playing?
When did I start playing? My freshman year of no, I started playing. Actually, the first instrument was violin, but I didn't stick with that. In high school, I started playing pit percussion, which is essentially like xylophone, marimba, piano, that sort of thing. The big timpani drums and stuff like that. All the stuff that's played in the reason I call it pit percussion is it's the stuff that gets played in the orchestra pit.
Right.
So I wanted to play with all the really fun toys that nobody else got to play with, and so it was me getting to play with the big musical toys.
Yeah, I never played. I regret it terribly. I was really shy too. I mean, I played sports. So I had, I had an in, because I was so into that and playing, and that really kept me going. But to put myself in a position of being around a bunch of people, not knowing, just absolutely,
What sport did you play?
What's that?
What sport?
I played. I did a bunch of it, but the sport I was really into was football. I had I played really. I had a great high school career, and then very quickly realized that college was a totally different environment. I played 2 years, and I blew my knee out my second year, and that was a life-changing experience because. I had no clue what I wanted to be. I was just playing sports and all that. I blew my knee out. And back then, this is like late 80s, early 80s. they didn't know how to reconstruct, ACLs the way they do now. They can do it pretty efficiently now. But
Yeah,
back,
like tendons and like Tommy John surgery and stuff like that. That used to be like revolutionary.
yeah, and now they can do it, and you can walk out of the hospital that day. But I tore my ACL. The doctors made this weird decision to not re, you know, to rebuild it, and so they basically said, "Hey, you're going to be on an unsteady knee for the next, for your life. So just be careful." And so, I just completely lost all aspects of my physical abilities, and about 8 years later, I could barely walk, and I finally went in and got a reconstructive surgery at the college I was going to, and that kind of made things more bearable. But yeah, it's been a lifetime thing that I've had to
That
kind
must
of.
have knocked the world, just the legs out from, not that's a bad analogy. Knock the legs out from under you. That must have just changed everything for you though. Like
It did, and then that's where I had, like you, I had found the drama club in junior high school, just this crazy mix of bizarre, children of the lost toys or whatever, and I always loved it. I always felt I always loved, and I'd always sneak over when I was in high school or when I was in college. I'd sneak over to the drama department and audition for a play or do something, and just
yeah.
never thought it could be something you could make a living at. And then it wasn't until well after college, that I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a go. And
Oh, maybe. Yeah, me neither. I never thought I could make a living, even temporarily, doing what I do. When I was doing a dinner theater, we got paid $20 a night, and that actually, believe it or not, put me in basically the top 5 percentile of paid actors in Arizona. Was the fact that I got paid at all,
yeah, yeah,
because most actors work unpaid.
they do, they do.
It's really remarkable. And the fact that uh, that I was able to make a living making fun of games and talking about video games, it's so remarkable, especially today, that's their entire career. That's
Yeah, and you did it. From what I know, you know, so where, it sounds to me like there were a couple people doing that when you first started. Is that right? That you were sort of,
I wasn't the first, but I was among the first
right.
to become really popular. I don't think anybody, even the people who were doing it at the time, were doing it to make a living that way.
Yeah.
They had a popular show, but this was before very big YouTube ad revenues or anything like that. This was before YouTube even really was something that had ads.
Right. Well, I remember, I mean, I'm not technically inclined. And so, I mean, I'm learning so much right now by what I'm doing here and learning OBS software and all this stuff. So it's been a crazy adventure for me, but I've not been that person. So I remember, around the time that you started, YouTube wasn't really even like, it was there, but it really wasn't as mainstream as it is now. I mean, now we all have our own YouTube channel. We all have our own, the stuff that it becomes like, it's like TV now. It's basically part of your TV culture. But back then,
you can rent and download movies off YouTube.
Exactly. So tell me a little bit about what you were walking into at the time in terms of, what was that must have really been the Wild West.
I wasn't walking into anything. It was sort of, Mystery Science Theater really changed my life.
Yeah.
Just because I loved it so much, and then it went off the air. And so what got me started, what I was walking into, was I wanted to make a fan series that was basically just ripping off Mystery Science Theater. I wanted to do the same thing with the puppets and the robots and I was going to do public domain movies because there's plenty of those. And so I even went so far as to building robots, and then I realized I needed other people to help me do it.
Yeah. That's the first.
And so I was like, my friends, they liked watching bad movies and all that stuff. And I was like, hey, do you guys want to watch bad movies and film us riffing them and watch these movies several times in a row? And they weren't that good for they weren't quite up for that.
Yeah.
And so I decided I'd seen other characters I'd seen other people talking about video games and stuff like that. And I had a camera and I had a robot that I didn't know what to do with. So I still don't know what to do with the robot. He just kind of sits near the chair. And so I decided I was going to talk about video games talk about whatever sprang to mind. And what I started talking about stuff that I grew up with, that kind of formed me as a person.
Yeah.
The crazy stuff that I grew up with playing with, and things like the Ultima series, things like The Secret of Monkey Island,
Which
the
I
graphic
played for
adventure.
the first time about a month ago.
Yes, this all that stuff, the graphic adventure games, the Sierra games that I grew up with, that my brother and I would play and try to figure out together, because this was before the internet. We couldn't look up the solutions online. You had to bash your head against the screen until you figured it out.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to talk about all those things. And so I didn't realize I was jumping into anything. And it wasn't until like I started talking about Phantasmagoria was actually one of the first videos that really took off for me.
Really?
Yeah. I did one on the Atari ET game, but that one was really popular. But like in terms of, I didn't even know that people were interested in watching somebody watch a game, like play through a game.
That to me, I feel like in a way, at least from my perspective, I mean, everybody's doing that now, but you were truly one of the first people to be doing that with such a big, with such a big and growing audience.
Well,
And
it wasn't. I'll show you how the sausage is made, maybe, and if we're gonna watch the show, you'll maybe be able to spot how I did this.
yeah, I'm very
I had
curious.
cheated a little bit. When I played through it, I recorded my impressions and my jokes live as I
Okay.
was playing the game. But then when I'd finished like a session, I stopped, I looked at the video, and I went back through the video again. And whenever there were times that like I fell silent, or I didn't like the joke, or I wanted to add a joke, I would then like record on top of myself.
Oh, fantastic.
So I kind of made two passes.
And did you do that all the way through, or did you find that when I watched some of it, it seemed to me that the first hour or so feels very pure. It feels very much like you are just experience. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into.
Right.
And
Yeah. I think the first hour. I'm sorry to interrupt. The first hour, I think, was me just going through it just once, because I didn't know what to expect. I had heard. Now, like, I'm going to explain my feelings on the game a little bit later, but at the time, I had heard that Phantasmagoria 2 was terrible.
Okay.
That was the impression I heard. And the reason I heard that was because I heard that it financially had flopped.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or for Sierra Interactive anyway. And so I was really gung-ho to see this really, really bad full motion video thing, because games historically up to that point with full motion video were pretty terrible.
Oh yeah.
They just were. And so I was really unprepared for quite how, I don't want to say just how like a really great B movie that it was. Like how
you can't backtrack now and say how good it is.
no, and actually that's what I wanted to get into, it because there's a lot more going on to Phantasmagoria 2 than just kind of a creepy monsters
Yeah.
story. It is that. But actually it's saying a lot, I think, about human sexuality. And it's I think it's actually a rather, you don't see games like that today.
Yeah.
You definitely didn't see games like that talking about the stuff that your character goes through back then.
Yeah.
At all. So there's a lot going on behind the characters that's kind of that's kind of obscured by what seems to be kind of silly alien, monsters zapping people, turning into pizzas. I think it's easy to mistake what's going on there, because there's actually a very mature story, or at least a very mature.
It's also about mental health. It's also about as you said, sexuality, but also like alternate behavior. And I've had more people, as I've kind of come out of the shadows to talk about this stuff, talk to me about how, this game was their first introduction to going, oh, somebody else is experiencing this too. And this game, with the thing that I love about this game is whatever faults it has, is it never passed judgment on any of the characters.
Exactly.
Never passed judgment on any of the and on the topics that it was exploring.
So exactly. For instance, Trevor, the character who's gay, I was fully expecting, because almost everything that involves a gay character, be it a movie, video game, anything, turns the gay character into a flaming stereotype.
Yep.
Someone who lisps, who's very effeminate, who's very offensive. And this game does not do that.
Yeah.
He is a character who is gay, and your character is his friend. At no point does he, you must let me dress you. There's no point where there's like some kind of, you're not making crazy, nobody's making jokes in reference to him being gay. Nobody's doing flaming impressions of him.
Right.
He's a straight up character, and he's taken seriously. And so that's
and he never comes on to Curtis. And Curtis is at one point near the end, Curtis actually makes a gesture towards him, and he revokes it, or he refuses it, which I think Trevor is the most level-headed character in the whole game.
So yeah, that's why I say I'm not backtracking when I say, like, on the surface, yes, it's a very silly, very funny kind of B movie, but I think in a lot of ways it's important.
Yeah.
In the way that it explores issues, and the way that it's not afraid to explore the issues. And I think if there was a reason that it failed, if it did fail, that was why. I don't think people were ready for that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it was I think it was this, what I remember was that the gamers back then were like, it was just too slow. They needed to interact. And then the people who were really interested in how FMV was starting, it was shortly thereafter that FMV pretty much imploded and stopped. I think there wasn't much more after that. But so it was interesting because, like, again, this was all real sets as opposed to the blue screen. It just, the quality was better and better. I would have been really curious to see, had it had another few years, what levels could they have gotten to? It's
only now that you're seeing in the 2020s that you're seeing any kind of resurgence of full motion video in games. Like,
have you watched any of them? Do you is that interesting to you, watching like the Sam Barlow stuff, or the Contradiction or whatever? They're mostly
Contradiction was really great.
Yeah.
And that was the closest I'd seen in a long time to anything that resembled a full production, in terms of locations, in terms of sets, in terms of like real actors.
Right.
When I say real actors, a lot of times it's just people who work at the office.
Yeah.
The only other games that I saw with full motion video up to that point was like Wing Commander 4, which had Mark Hamill in it.
Right.
So I was like, you're kind of in rare company.
Yeah.
When it comes to actors who've appeared in this medium, there's not many.
Well, maybe if this little thing of mine grows, I might be able to get some of those guys to come and talk about their experience. That would be fun. Get some of the big boys to, because there was, Walken and Mark Hamill, and what's his name from Tim Curry and all those folks. Yeah. Well, we've talked. We're definitely going to get into looking at your playthrough, but I just want to talk a little bit about. So I just want to kind of get more sense of your trajectory. So you released Phantas 2, and it must have been really fun for you as the game progressed, and as it sounds, I can see now that as you would look through your comments, and then I even found a couple moments where I'm like the waiter, your receipts monologue is just so unbelievably brilliant. And I really can see where, like, you must have watched it, you must have made a couple comments, and then you went back and at one point and went, oh, I know what to do here.
Yeah, because in every scene he's doing this. And I'm guessing that was just the direction. I'm guessing you shot those in one go, those cafe scenes.
Yeah.
Kind of in one go. And so it wasn't a big deal. The director was just like, okay, we need somebody in the background doing business stuff.
Yeah.
Receipts. But it's in every shot that he's.
I put a little compilation of all your all the receipt jokes, which is really great. But Yeah, it must have been really fun because it just got more and more involved with each episode that you just started to take it to higher and higher levels, which had to have been. And were you getting, it sounds like you were getting real-time feedback. Were you doing live streams or
No,
you were recording it and then well, yeah, when did you release it? Yeah, tell me how you would do it.
I wasn't yet doing live streams. These were a let's play is different from a live stream in the sense that a let's play is just usually recorded, I think.
Yeah, okay.
I think so.
All right.
And so I didn't know how to live stream if that was even possible back in the day, but I could record game footage and I could record myself talking over game footage. And so that's
Gotcha.
what I was doing.
Gotcha.
But if I was getting any feedback, it was from the comments in previous videos. And because the thing is, I think what you may have queued up is I later released the Phantasmagoria series in terms of like hours.
Yes, that's what I've got pretty much.
I think I initially started releasing them in very small episodes, like maybe like 10, 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So it came out in like 30, maybe 40 parts.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
First. So I think I was turning them around a lot faster than that. I wasn't turning them out in terms of like hour-long episodes.
that. Gotcha.
So if I was getting any feedback or response to the jokes that worked, it was in terms of those shorter episodes.
Gotcha.
And I don't even think you can find those shorter episodes. I may have taken them down because a lot of them got copyright flagged.
Oh, really?
For whatever reason. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if it was music. It's usually music or some kind of background.
No, because it's all the music's from it's Gary Spinrad's, and he's never gone off and tried to make a thing of it. We've been using it forever. So yeah, you must have got flagged somehow. But
I got a few claims, but I can't remember why.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the hour-long episodes were a lot easier to handle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I initially released them as I know I didn't release them initially as hour-long episodes.
Yeah. So you do this game and you get a lot of incredible feedback. What's it like? When do you start to realize that you're onto something and you have this ability to create this kind of content? And then where do you take it from there? And you seemed like you had a pretty good run for a while there.
You're onto something when the view, like you can pretty easily follow the view count on the videos, and in terms of your subscribers, that's I knew I was onto something because people kept on Twitter and stuff. They kept asking when's the next episode coming out.
Okay.
So that's people were asking for more.
Right.
But it was that, and I was doing reviews of the Final Fantasy series, like Final Fantasy X. Those were by far like my most popular videos. And so it was just easy to see right away how fast those took off because people when they like something they ask for more.
Yeah.
And so that was I was always getting questions, when's the next episode coming out? And so that's a great problem to have.
Yeah, and there's such a simplicity to it too that's really great because like even now, I mean, I've got a green screen that does, I've got a little curtain that's on my wall that I can kind of do this. The production people have the ability to create production values that they couldn't before. And watching you in your bedroom at the time and just sort of having fun and not trying to hide the fact that you are where you are, but still creating these moments. And I think that was there was a real charm to that.
Yeah. And it was an authenticity.
Yeah.
To it because I never wanted to claim like I was some super nerd, that I was better than anybody else. That I was just I was some kid who played some stuff, and maybe you played them too. And if you didn't, here's what it was like.
Right. Right.
I always wanted to be authentic more than anything.
And so how does gaining that kind of fandom, how does that affect you? Does that become, I mean, it had to have been, there's got to be some really great highs and some, the world of,
It's, well, people get, I know what you're getting at. It's when I get invited to conventions, it's actually a little hard being an internet celebrity, D-list though I might be. It's actually very hard because a lot of the stuff you see is negative. A lot of the attention you get is negative,
right?
Because usually people only post a review like on Yelp or something. People only post a review if something went wrong,
right? Of course, yeah. You're not going to spend a lot of time praising something because you were happy and you're moving on.
People don't often post glowing reviews of stuff like this was great. They only have something when they're angry. So when I say that any positive feedback one gets online is so incredible. It feels so good. And so when I would get invited to conventions to speak at conventions and just do stuff like that, seeing people in person, we don't get that feedback in person.
Yeah.
Almost ever. That is so valuable. It means so much to see people in person who like what you do and to tell you to your face that to remind you that they exist.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's easy to get caught up in negativity or to see more negativity than there really is.
Oh yeah. I mean, and you know, I had to stop reading reviews when I was, you know, in the height of my career, but you know, when I was working more, because I got a review that was probably the best review I ever had, but it was something like, you know, Paul was really, really good. He was brilliant in this moment, especially in Act 1 when he did this thing. And the first thing I thought was, well, what the hell is wrong with Act 2? What did I do wrong in Act 2? And so I couldn't accept the praise. I had to find some negative to it. And so, you know, it's important to get that positive feedback. It's vital to get that positive feedback, but sometimes we can't even accept that, you know. And if we are willing to accept the bad, then you have to accept the good. And I think that we have a hard time accepting the good sometimes, you know.
And that's why I'm glad that I'm here to begin with, is because I hope you realize that when I was doing this review, you said initially that it was hard to watch because you were getting made fun of.
But I never felt like it was me. I totally got it. It was the character. I never felt ever that there was a couple moments like, oh, I hope he doesn't take a crack, or I hope, you know, it wasn't just you, but I think other, you know, the game got out there and people are doing all kinds, you know, there's a ton of Let's Plays of Phantas 2. And I just didn't want to come across like, oh, are they going to take a crack at something personal? And I never really ever got that from you. I really felt like you know, you had fun, a couple of funny cracks about acting, but it never felt personal. It was absolutely, you know, I don't know. I'm lucky that way that I don't feel I wasn't took so much ownership over it.
It was never personal against you. And I'm making fun of the movie.
Yeah.
But I have no hostility towards anyone. Like I never would say like, I wish this was never made.
Yeah.
Or I wish bad things would happen to anyone in this. Never.
Well, when I started doing this thing, now I'm starting to stream these old games, and I reached out to, and I want to ask you a little bit because I did I read a couple of your, or I've seen a couple of your early interviews from way back, but it sounds like you were a pretty big fan of Phantas 1 when it first came out, and never did Phantas 2. And so I reached out to the actress who was the lead in that after I finished playing. I finally played Phantas 2 for the first time, and so that was kind of bizarre, which is why I'm going to make you watch some of your
orange shirt.
What's that?
She who perpetually wore the orange shirt.
Exactly. So I reached out to her, and like myself, she had never played it before, so I got her to play her own game.
You never played her own game, really?
No, and neither had I. And I think part of it is we didn't have the money or didn't have the computers that could do it. It's also hard to watch yourself, and
yeah, that was actually one of the harder things that you have to get over when you're doing what I do, is because I'm editing my own video.
Yeah.
You get so critical of your own performance because you're watching yourself over and over and over again.
Yeah, for sure.
Video. That's something you've got to get over.
Yeah.
Because that's otherwise you're never going to get anything done.
Right. Now, are you right now? You're live streaming quite a bit these days. Is that right?
Yeah.
And how's that going? Are you enjoying that?
It's difficult for me because I don't know. I have too many choices. I have so many games to choose from to live stream, and because I don't know until I start
whether you're going to like it,
whether I'm going to like it, or whether or not it's going to be good viewing.
Yeah. Do you feel comfortable punting when you need to, or do you?
Yeah, if I have to, because I just played one called Library of Ruina, which is not a bad game, but I just don't think it's told in a style that's not very interesting to watch in terms of like as an audience.
Yeah. How do you like with live streaming? You can't go back and edit and add some fun quips that you didn't have. How do you like this process and just doing it, on the fly?
Well, that's when I say Phantasmagoria 2 was it's unique in a way. It's there really aren't that many games like that are told like a movie. It's that's why I haven't done many other Let's Plays in that style, is because
They're
you
not.
name another game that does like maybe Contradictions, which I did.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I mean, but I even wasn't really making fun of that. That was a live stream, I think.
Oh, okay.
But that was so much fun that, I mean, yeah, I could do a Let's Play. I mean, but I think the live stream was good enough on its own.
Yeah.
But I that's why I think, again, I'm not trying to kiss your ass when I say that Phantasmagoria 2, there's really not many things like it. That's my dog.
What's your dog's name?
Thaco.
Paco.
THAC0.
Oh, Thaco. There you go. He
Yeah,
heard me. He heard me saying his name. That's great.
Yeah.
That's right.
Uh-oh. Anyway, but yeah, there's really not that many games like Phantasmagoria 2, and if there were, I would have done them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's a shame because I think, was it Roberta Williams who?
No, Roberta Williams wasn't involved in that at all. It was Lorelei Shannon was the name of the writer, and
Sure.
she was a writer for Sierra and just pitched it. I think Roberta Williams, her goal was to sort of create a Twilight Zone, and just the moniker of Phantasmagoria.
Right.
There would be just numerous horror games that don't connect to each other.
Sure.
I thought they did have one little moment where Curtis gets a postcard from Adrian or her agent saying go to a book signing or something like that. I think it would have been great if Adrian had made like a small cameo. Like, I mean, again, it would have been neat if there was in the like the Marvel world,
Just some minor crossover. Yeah,
exactly. And then had they made more, it would have been really fun to kind of do what Marvel does and sort of have these kind of interconnective things. There's a lot of ways they could have gone.
Cinematic universe. I like
Yeah.
it.
But well, listen, you and I talked. I mean, here's the thing. Here's what you and I reached out to you a couple times, and wasn't sure if this was going to be of interest to you or not. And then you finally got back to me, and so we agreed to do this today. And I thought this would be just a couple hours of us chatting a little bit, and then maybe playing a little bit of some of the clips. I asked a lot of my fans for some of their favorite clips from the P2. So I gathered those. But then I started watching them and I'm like, well, I really should start watching it from the beginning. And so I start watching it from the beginning. And so yesterday I had this moment of like, I wonder if Noah would be up for doing, I mean, maybe I'll just call it a let's play of your let's play to like literally just start at the beginning and let's watch it. It's going to be, I mean, I was thinking about the meta-ness of this. It would be us watching a 14-year-old let's play. So 14 years ago, you did this.
Oh my God.
Let's play. 26 years ago, I was in the game that you did the let's play, and now we're here. So us watching you comment on a game that I was in, I think is just too good, and not that to. That said, I don't know.
I was commenting on.
So that said, I don't know how well it will go. Let's just play with it for a bit. I mean, it's mostly your commentary, and there's so much of it that's good that if we're talking over it, I don't know. It's all. I think we just throw it up there and see what happens.
Let's see what happens let's see what happens.
Let's do it. All right, let me share this thing and make sure we're all good to go.
Okay, so I'm just popping in here real quick to say that this is where we started to play the Let's Play. Didn't really work out as well as we wanted. I'm throwing that all away. We'll have Noah join us at a future date. And then what you're going to see now is when we picked up the interview after we started to talk about other things. So enjoy the tail end of my chat with Noah Antwiler.
Yeah, so I just was saying that there's a lot of ways that we can go with this, and I'm curious where you're at with your your career right now and what your goal is to kind of get back into the swing of things.
Things got bad for me for a while. It's my goal of ultimately to start making reviews again.
Okay.
Um, it's been a long way trying to climb my way back to where I can even appear on camera again. And it's hard to explain why for a lot of reasons, but I'm getting there. And I think that's the important thing is I'm making progress. And I think that's actually why I wanted to thank you for having me on here, because this is a big step for me. I haven't even appeared on camera in a long time. So just knowing that there's people out there who still want to see, hear from me and see what I have to say, and people that are still engaged with my content after 12 years, you said?
Yeah.
I think that's actually very helpful for me, and it's going to bring me back. It's going to help bring me back a lot sooner. So, but yeah, that's my ultimate goal, is to just be in a position again where I can keep doing what I love doing, and that's just having fun with you guys, making people laugh, because that's what it's always been about.
Right. Right. Does it feel like that there was a point where it just got too big too soon, and did you feel like maybe it was just a little overwhelming? And
A little bit. It got to the especially with like the Final Fantasy reviews. I was doing almost like short films, like entire like these big epic fight scenes with various characters and stuff like that. And I like doing them a lot, but at the same time, it was distracting from the main content.
Mm-hmm.
I was starting to get too big for myself. I'm one guy doing all this stuff, and it got to be really overwhelming. And I think kind of going back to basics was kind of a big step for me to realize what I needed to do. Was people like the stuff that I do, but they care. You got to remember what's important is the core content. It's people want to hear what you have to say about these things. They don't necessarily care about these crazy action scenes and fight scenes. They're fun, but they're not what's important.
Right.
They want to see what you have to say about these things that you grew up with.
Yeah.
So I think it's back for me. It's about going back to basics, I think.
Okay. Is there a way that you can produce these? I mean, so much has changed since we were first doing this. Are you interested in? Well, when I say you're saying go back to the basics, but like even the basics can be more highly produced if that's something you're interested in pursuing.
I will admit that the game has changed, so to speak, in terms of people producing content on YouTube a lot since the stuff I last produced. Just in terms of like sponsored reviews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's something that wasn't done back when I started out. The ways and means people make money off these type of things. I think a question I need to answer for myself when I start doing projects again is, what do I expect to get out of this stuff? Is it like, do I plan to make money doing this anymore? Because that's a big question that needs to be answered.
Yeah.
What do I realistically expect to get out of this? And I think my answer to that is, I don't want to have any expectations about what I want to get out of things. Like I don't, if I go into this wanting to make money, if I go into this wanting to just monetize, this becomes something that it's not creatively stimulating for me. I want to make something that makes people laugh.
Right.
And I think as long as I keep that in the forefront, good things will follow from that.
I can't wait to see what you come up with in terms of your next review, because I imagine you must have a lot of ideas about how you might want to do that.
Oh, like what? Well, I could actually tell you.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to do very badly was, I'm a big fan of. Hang on. One of the things I grew up doing was playing Dungeons and Dragons. And so what I didn't know was that there is a third Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was one that was just terrible, starring Jeremy Irons, and there was a second that was released on the Sci-Fi Channel. But what I did know was that overseas, or at least in Europe anyway, there was a third. And it is it's something. It's quite something. And so when I thought about getting back to basics, for me, it doesn't get any more meat and potatoes for me, so to speak, than Dungeons and Dragons. Because I could talk about RPGs and I could talk about that kind of stuff all day, every day, and I have. So I think if there's a project that's likely to bring me back, it's D&D in some form or another.
Do you already have, is it already fully formed in your head, or is it
It's
worth
not fully
it?
formed, but I can see it. You know what I mean?
What would it take to get that ball rolling, do you think?
It's rolling.
Okay.
It's rolling.
Yeah.
As for when, I don't know.
Okay.
But I can say that, yeah, this and everything else, this interview is because it's helping to inspire me.
Step one, right? You gotta just, yeah. And I think that, when I always like to work backwards if I can, if I just have to push myself to put something on a calendar, even if I know I can't do it. But then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that thing's on the calendar. And so then I know I've got to start prepping for it. Like
What you're talking about is momentum.
Yeah.
You got to keep, and that's actually really important. And that's something that I think I lost along the way, was any kind of forward momentum. So it's being able to kind of seize that initiative and hold it that keeps you productive as a creator of new material. If you let yourself get stagnant, if you let yourself stop, you can take a break every now and then.
Sure.
But if you've got to keep moving forward, even if it's just a little bit.
Yeah. And when things present themselves to you, and again, it sounds to me that in your situation, for various reasons, you really had to step back, and that was the most healthy thing for you to do. But then, where you're at right now, I mean, not that I'm going to be any, I could be a little stepping stone towards something, but when something presents itself, if you're willing to open your door to that, it could, this could lead to a creative burst towards something else. And that would be great if that.
I hope so, and I think it has. It's good to be it's good to be talking about this kind of stuff, and it's good to see, like I said, it's that kind of direct feedback that you don't get very often as an online producer. Just talking to someone who enjoys what you do and is willing to tell you that they enjoy what you do.
Yeah,
it's not often that you get that in real life. And I think that's true for almost anybody, not just internet producers.
Oh, for sure. Are you engaging a lot with your fans? Is it, are you feeling,
I try to stay in contact with them on Twitter, because they've actually been very supportive on Twitter.
Yeah. Would you ever want to do a live stream of some of this stuff, or would it be better to keep it? Would you?
Like what we're doing now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun. I think a fan Q&A or something like that would be neat.
Okay. All right. This is great. I think this is going to be great. I'm out of town next week, but I'll be in touch next week, and I'll throw a couple dates your way, and I'll just throw a couple of ideas, and then we'll figure out a way to get to the next step.
Sounds good.
All right. Hey, it's really nice to meet you, Noah.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you too.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
So there you go. That was my interview with Noah Antwiler, part one of my interview with Noah Antwiler. Like I said, I was tempted to just kind of throw this one away and start from scratch. He seemed open to doing that, but like I said, it just felt like there were some real honest moments here that I'm not sure we could recapture. And so he gave me permission to release this. So enjoy this for now until we come back with another episode of Noah Antwiler joining me on Conversations with Curtis, this time on a live stream. So that'll be fun. All right. Thanks, everyone. Oh, by the way, before I forget, you got to do all the stuff, right? Please like and subscribe and join our Patreon. Aren't we doing amazing things? Don't you want to keep this thing going and growing? So please help support us financially by joining our Patreon membership or giving us a donation during our live streams. All right. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye.